Hello, I'm RetroJules. The question is World of Tanks a perfect game? Of course it isn't. It never will be perfect. Thousands upon millions of people play World of Tanks across the different formats, and you're never ever gonna please everybody. Some people are gonna hate something new, some people are gonna hate changes, and it's never gonna be right for everybody. But that said, World of Tanks is a free to play game. The fact that it may cost you money to play is your choice. The fact that you play it too much to get a free tank that World of Tanks offers you is your choice, and you can play this game exactly how you want to play it and get the enjoyment factor that you want. I think a lot of people play this game too much, too intensely, and as a result end up hating it. And it's a game and it should be fun, but it's never going to be perfect, and perhaps there's something we would all like to get out of the game that could be different. And wargaming, it has to be said that actually they're really good at listening to their players, because they do make the adjustments that players ask for, or if players are really not happy with things, that they do change and adjust those. So I do think they're out there listening. So what I'd like to do for you is the top 10 things that me personally, if I was given the choice, I would change in the game. New entry in at 10, the Reticle. I believe that when you're sniping, that it doesn't look that realistic, and it's just a little sort of tweak that I would like to see. When I go into sniper mode, I would like to see a really nicely detailed, proper tank reticle, or maybe one that would look like a proper tank reticle. A little bit more detail. I know, you are aiming at the tank at the back of the battlefield and you don't want to be distracted from that, and I get that. But maybe just like a little compass spinning, showing north, south, east and west, some coordinate figures changing as you move the reticle, I think would just really add a nice bit of detail and interest to what is the very plain tank reticle. Down 2 places at number 9, Map Explorer. I would quite like to see a solo Map Explorer function. You've seen my gameplay when I go onto a new map and I don't do well because I don't know where to go. I've got no idea of the tactics of the map, and not being an excellent tanker, I can't just rely on pure skill to get me through and blag it. I would quite like the option to go out on my own, not with anybody else, in a World War II Jeep, and just be able to explore any of the maps. Go round at your leisure for as long as you like, and explore and look for those little hiding places and how you think the map might be, because in battle you never really get that chance, and the only way you can really look at maps is with another player online. I'd like to be able to do it on my own, and maybe you would too. And also, I would then be able to make videos of exploring maps for you to have a look and explore with me. Staying at number 8, tank flipping. New physics are great. I love the way the tanks interact more with the terrain, roll over cars, roll over each other. Light tanks flipping and rolling, sometimes perhaps a little bit too cartoony, but you can let that go, because effectively with the physics of the game, the speed that sometimes you will take a corner at in like an ELC, you can see that actually it should and would flip when it hits things. But what I don't like is the tank just bouncing back after 10 seconds in a really sort of stupid manner. And of course, if I'm going to come up with this criticism, I really need to come up with a way round it, something constructive. And I think firstly perhaps the tank shouldn't be quite so easy to flip, and I really think that actually if you flip your tank it should stay there. You know, it's your fault, you've driven stupidly or made a mistake, a little bit like getting killed. You know, if you get killed, your tank doesn't respawn and bounce back, that's it, it's game over. And I think that when you flip your tank it should stay flipped. It would be really frustrating. You'd probably try to get your platoon members or a member of the team to come over and turn you back over, and they'd be wasting time doing it, and the enemy would be coming. And I think that that would actually add to the fun and frustration of this game and just add that little bit of spice. Failing that, if that would be a really wrong decision to make or really unpopular, then maybe, I don't know, maybe like a helicopter grapple could come down and turn the tank over, or maybe it could just sort of roll over. When it flips, it could roll and flip, but the physics could change in such a way that it doesn't end up upside down, it always ends up right way up, but both tracks could be completely off for say 10 seconds, and then it would just retrack and away you go. Up one place at number 7, Armour Viewer. The Armour Viewer we've had this a long time now, and it is very, very useful, really handy. It's great to turn your tank round and see where those heavily armoured areas are, where those weak spots are, but it doesn't change when you move the tank. How do you know if a tank works better if you angle it? And if you do angle it, do some of those angled surfaces then become flat? I would like to see the colours of the Armour Viewer change, like tanks.gg style, when you turn the tank. So you know that if you're in a Tiger 2 and you want to side scrape, how far can you go before your side becomes vulnerable? Just want to see, as you turn the tank, those armour values change in colour, so you can see exactly how effective your armour can and can't be when your tank is turning or manoeuvring or angling. Down one place at number 6, Camouflage. I really like to roll out with my tank painted. I think tanks with camouflage look stunning. You can pay silver to have a temporary one, which costs you a lot, but if you really like the tank and you're going to keep it and you've got a premium account, chances are you've got a bit of gold left over and you'll pay for a permanent camouflage. And there are 4 types of camouflage to purchase. And if you get bored or you want to change one of those, you then have to buy another pattern. I am saying that yes, it's fine, I think you should pay gold to have a permanent camouflage on your tank, but I think once you've paid for all 4, or maybe a winter one, you should be allowed to interchange that camouflage as you please for any of the other patterns. I.e., I think you should pay for summer camouflage, winter camouflage, and be able to use any of those patterns for the price that you paid. Staying at number 5, map rotation. There are over 85 different maps and map variations. If I'm playing for, say, 3 or 4 hours in an evening, I do not get a different map every game. In fact, I might get Kasserine 3 or 4 times that evening. Or the one I used to get, especially when I played my T54, was Heilbronn. That would just keep coming up. And I haven't seen Heilbronn for ages now. And I just think there should be a system somehow, I'm not quite sure how they would do this, but Wargaming are clever, so they could work it out, that they could allocate map rotations to you as a person, i.e. if you've rolled out in your Matilda and you've played Malinovka, then you shouldn't play Malinovka again that evening. You should then get a different map almost every time. Now I do understand that, they've got to match tiering up with tanks, get everybody matched up evenly, get them onto a map, and that would be difficult, but maybe there should be some sort of strike system which kind of monitors the fact that, hang on, you've played this map 3 times already in the space of 2 hours. You won't play that map again today. A new entry in at number 4, the head-up display. The screen that you play on, the mini-map, the tank stats, the kill feed. I find that I need the mini-map up to get an overall picture of what's happening in the battle. If you use the radar, you do not have that awareness of the long distance tanks and where they appear and where they could be. However, when you then go into a city and you know it's going to be close combat and you're using your mini-map, it can be really hard to work out which direction you're facing and if that tank is to your left or to your right. And that normally happens when you're in a bit of a panic and you're getting picked on and hammered. And you can flick to the radar, which is handy, and then immediately, because the radar is rotating around you, you know exactly if that tank is in front of you, behind you, to the left or to the right. Now I believe that on the tank screen there's actually quite a lot of the screen that isn't really used. I would quite like to have the mini-map in the bottom right hand corner, but a choice of maybe 2 or 3 sizes to make it bigger or smaller. I would then have the radar at the bottom left of the screen, so I could then see my orientation and where the tanks are around me. I would then have the tank stat circle up in the top left of the screen, because it's important to know which components have broken and which ones, where the problems are with the tank. So you need that there, and your health, of course. So I'd have that in the top left of the screen. The little bars of your dropout signal, yes, they're important because dropouts do happen, but they could move somewhere else on the screen. And maybe the kill feed, which is sort of down on that left-hand side, you don't always see it, could perhaps be sort of at the top of the screen and central underneath the clock. And maybe you could have an option of different head-up display templates, and you could choose a little bit like your controller configuration, how you want that screen to look as you play, and personalize it to your style of tanking and what you want to see on the screen where. Down one place at number 3, tier offsetting. I understand that the game has to mix tiers to create battles. I think if we were to stamp our feet and say, I want to play a game where the whole team is one tier, i.e. all the tanks are tier 5, then you could have to wait a very, very long time to go into battle. Those battles do come up, and you know for a fact that if they're all the same tier, it's the most fair game you can play. You can play the tanks to their strengths because they will work. But you take a tank against something that is 2 tiers higher than you, and it doesn't work. You take a KV-1 against a heavy tank 2 tiers above, you are useless. You are slow and you are useless. But I understand why it's done so that you don't wait long for a battle. However, I still don't think it's fair. Like for like, heavies, mediums and light tanks going up against their own components within the game 2 tiers above is not fair and is not viable. Let alone light tanks or medium tanks going up against heavies, which are 2 to 3 tiers higher. Not fair, not funny. However, very, very skilled if you can pull that game off. And what this encourages is the use of premium ammunition. Ammunition that you pay a fortune for. You can pay in silver, but then you're not going to be able to progress your tanks very quickly because you're not going to make any money out of the game. What I'm suggesting is, yes, mix the tiers, it has to be done, but offset the ammunition. I.e., if you're a tank that's 2 tiers down, automatically you should either be equipped with gold ammunition at the same cost as normal ammunition, or your ammunition penetration should have a percentage buff so that you can then compete fairly with the higher tanks. I don't think the higher tiers should be handicapped. I don't think any tanks should ever be handicapped, but lower tanks should be buffed for the duration of that battle to make that battle fair and competitive. A new entry in at number 2, high tier light tanks. Now, I know for a fact that this has already happened on the PC, but I've had this video drafted up for some time now, and I still think it's viable, and we don't know for sure whether we'll get it on the console. But light tanks have a 3-tier threshold, and it never ever means that your top tier as a light tank playing against tanks that are 3 tiers lower than you. Oh no, that never ever happens. You are always a low tier. You're never really even the same tier. You are always 1 to 3 tiers lower. And my question is, why? Why is a light tank any different to any other normal tank? Their life expectancy should not be shorter. It's a much riskier gameplay style. It's the hardest and most volatile gameplay style in World of Tanks, and the tanks are severely handicapped. I don't see why my tier 7 Walker Bulldog ends up in a tier 10 battle when there are blatantly obvious tier 8 light tanks out there. I should not be a tier 7 tank in a tier 10 battle. If anything, it should be the tier 8 light tank, which would then only be 2 tiers down, the same as any other tank. So, why are light tanks treated differently? They shouldn't be. So, I would like to see tier 9 and tier 10 light tanks and the threshold tiering of those tanks changed to the same as all the other tanks, whereby they play against tanks that are within 2 tiers of each other. Light tanks get a hard deal. It's not fair, it's not competitive, and it's not right. And still at number 1, the World of Tank specific controller. The last 2 items have almost turned into a little bit of a rant, and that's purely because I feel very strongly about those 2, and that's obviously come out in my attitude a little bit. So I would like to finish with something very positive, and actually something that could make some big companies probably quite a lot of money. I should in fact patent the idea myself. However, I'm not that sort of person, and this is now out there. I would quite like, when you go into sniper mode, to not have 2 fixed aiming controls, i.e. close and very close. I would quite like what the PC's got, whereas they can use the scrolling button on the mouse to physically zoom in as much as they want to. So I am suggesting that you could have a World of Tank specific controller, which Wargaming could make money out of, or Microsoft could make money out of, and Sony could make money out of. And I've looked at the controller, and to the right of the right hand stick there is easily room for a little scroll wheel, and then when you aimed in and go into sniper mode, you could roll that wheel forwards and backwards and get that sniper mode as close or as far as you want. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed my top 10 things that I would change about the game. Do you want a more detailed reticle? Do you want to be able to explore the maps on your own? Does tank flipping work? Do you like the armor viewer? Do you want to be able to change your camouflage once you've paid for it? Do you want to see a better variety of maps? Do you want to change to the head-up display or be able to adjust it? Do you believe that tier offsetting and buffing ammunition is a good idea? Do you find if you're a light tank and you are out-tiered dramatically that it is not fair? And do you quite fancy having a new spanky controller? I can't wait to see your comments and read your comments down below, and maybe you can come up with a completely different set of 10 things that you would change about the game, and I could make another video on your behalf. So please let me know, what do you think of my 10 things, and have you got anything else that you would change about the game too? Keep safe, keep tanking, and I'll see you soon. And finally, at number 1, a World of Tank specific controller. Now the last 2 have almost turned into rants, and I apologise for that, but somehow those 2 I've got quite strong opinions about those, and they didn't feel right. So I'd like to finish with something really positive, and actually I should have painted in this. I should have patented. I should have patented. I should have copyrighted. I have not got the words for this. I should start again.